All right, everybody, welcome to Group Chat, episode, 69. Every episode 69. Hey, when in Rome, every episode 16. I think of a different phrase, and I just fucked that up completely.
Yeah, mixed metaphors.
I am here with the one of the hosts of the Grubstakers Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Great Twitter.
Yes. Thank you.
Very funny guy. Sean McCarthy's here, everybody.
Hey, thank you for having me and inviting me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, of course. A beautiful, I'm going to call it a crisp autumn night. I don't know if you would call it that, but.
Yeah, it's humid out.
Yeah.
You know, I had to I didn't put on deodorant this morning, and then I got here and I got deodorant at the CVS and just put it on because I just didn't want to stink up a room with a guy I don't see that much for an hour straight. Like, that's the impression. Like, even if I kill it on the podcast, he's just like, this guy fucking stunk up my bedroom, and I couldn't get the smell out for a week.
Man, Sean really stunk it up. Oh, he was bad? No, he killed. He just stunk really badly.
That used to happen to me with Nick Mullen. Is of course the funniest, smartest guy, but like he would always have this terrible breath. Like, and I don't know, like I never had the heart to say anything to him because he was living in like a Chinese tenement. But so I would like see him at the creek, and like he would make me laugh, and it like just say the smartest, most insightful shit. But then I would like try to like keep my distance because. Like, oh, man, that guy had some serious halitosis going.
I didn't know. His breath seems fine to me now, but that's
yeah, well, now that he's a fucking millionaire, you can get that fixed.
Now that he doesn't live in, like, a windowless, like, Nick is always, every time I see him, he's, like, a mixed bag, like, in every respect. Like, I think he's a really smart, like, hilarious guy.
Oh, yeah, Nick is my fucking hero.
Last time I saw him, it's been a while. No, not last time, but one of the times I saw him was actually at Andy Haynes' show.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him, and he was like, I'm friendly with Nick. I see him like here and there or whatever. I'm not like super good friends. So I was like, oh, hey, Nick, what's up? And he was like, oh, hey, and I was like, well, how are you doing? And I was like, I'm good. I was like, I'm good. How about you? And he's like, I got to go to the gym. And then he just left.
Right.
What an incredible out.
Right. Well,
he left like Batman.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think about that where like I have the 40-hour-a-week day job, which I hate, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But, then on the other side, of course, it would be better to not have the day job, to just podcast and stand up. But then how do you fill the hours? Like, clearly, most people who do stand-up, their brain is at least on some way a little fucked up.
Totally.
So once you have that much free time, I mean, like, so it's like, it makes sense, like, go to the gym or whatever else. Like, you can add structure to your...
This was at, like, 10 p.m., though.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well,
which gym is even open? I feel like he just in his brain was like, I'm not in the mood to socialize. I want to go home. What is a good out? I need to go to the gym. I'll see you later. But maybe he did. That guy works out a lot.
Yeah, no, he does. He could fucking crush my neck with one hand.
Say a slur. Say it. No!
That's what I was thinking about. I was joking with one of my friends. Like, the way they should have resolved the Shane Gillis thing is the buffest SJW comic should have MMA fought Louis J. Gomez. And then that decides whether or not Shane Gillis
gets to be on SNL.
Because that's the only fair way to resolve it.
Yeah.
Like, we would all say, okay, it was trial by combat. Fair enough. This is how Shane Gillis's future will be determined.
Who is the buffest SJW comic? Is it Lindy West?
Yeah, that's fucking sumo wrestle Louis J. Gomez.
She just sits on him.
Whoever can push the other one out of the ring first. Fucking Trump and the Japanese prime minister show up.
Yeah. Lewis is funny because he really just wants an excuse to fight. It's like, why are you in comedy? Just get into fighting. But yeah. I liked because you're in kind of like the leftist comedy and Twitter circles, right? Sorta, or would you describe it that way?
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. Like I think primarily I'm a comedian.
Yeah.
Like my podcast is sort of funny, but it's more like informational. But
it's really comprehensive and pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I told Sean with this before, but the Epstein episodes are pretty great. But I also saw you like going to bat pretty hard for Shane and the and all that stuff, and I was like, damn, it's nice to have like a guy like on my on the right side politically, like realize that this is like bullshit on some level.
Well, like, look, what I think about my politics are my politics, but what I do honestly think about comedy, I like political comedy. I enjoy it. Jon Stewart, Bill Hicks, George Carlin, whoever.
Yeah,
I enjoy political comedy, but I honestly do not believe it affects any change whatsoever.
No.
Like The Daily Show, Jon Stewart, one of the funniest like political shows ever made, but it accomplished nothing. Like, he got, the 9/11 bill for the firefighters, and that's like, why the fuck was that a debate to begin with?
Yeah, it also had nothing to do with his show.
Right,
he just
that was
like
after
used his celebrity.
Right,
like any celebrity can do that pretty much.
But so, that just kind of informs it, where I think people get really obsessed with this idea that, say, South Park created our current, political moment. And it's like, no, it was just a show. Like, maybe they were wrong on some shit, but they didn't affect anything whatsoever.
I saw the greatest New York Times opinion headline, like classic New York Times opinion. It was like, how clueless led
that
us
was
to
Lindy
Trump.
West.
Oh, was that Lindy West? I just saw the
The
headline.
new Lindy West.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
How did I know that would suck? I like how I just read the headline. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's Lindy West.
Like,
what was her argument? I didn't read it. I was like, this is...
I got 2 paragraphs in, and I'm like, God damn it. No, I'm not. I don't care. It was and then it was almost gratifying because people were roasting it on Twitter, but then you realize no, the entire point of the op-ed page is to drive clicks.
Yeah.
So if people are roasting it on Twitter, she's doing her job.
She's doing her job. Yeah, there was one that was like, the Aperol Spritz is a bad drink, and it got shared a bunch, and nobody actually read the article.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, this was probably a huge hit for them.
Right.
That's what sucks now. Is it's like that is the problem with like the hot take. Like the New York Times opinion page has become a fucking cesspool. It just is like, it seems to please nobody. Oh man, I was speaking of political comedy. I was watching the Mark Maron special, his newer one, like from 2017.
Right.
Oh boy, his political stuff was not great. He was like, Hillary wasn't bad. Maybe she was just an old lady who didn't know how to use her phone. It's like, what is that joke?
Right. It's very interesting with Maron. Like, so when I was started comedy in Seattle, I went to this club there called Giggles, and Maron actually recorded. This is before his podcast, before he blew up.
Right.
He recorded an album called Final Engagement there.
I remember that. That was like the album everyone listened to, when WTF popped off.
Right. And Final Engagement, I saw all of those tapings live. They were great.
Really?
Maybe I'm remembering it better, but at the time I was like, I was like a new stand-up open micer. I'm like, this is the funniest live stand-up I've ever seen.
Isn't that the one where he's breaking down over his ex-wife and stuff like that? He's just having a meltdown on stage.
He actually
What's with my fucking wife? What's she fucking doing, man?
There was at Giggles, there was a shady cook who worked in the back, and he stole $1,000 or $2,000 cash from the owner and just dipped one night.
Beautiful.
But so before Maron went on stage, he was talking to him, and then he goes up on the album. He's like, maybe I should just be a fry cook, I could quit comedy and do that.
Really?
So he was asking him about his job and trying to figure out.
He was trying to get into fry cooking.
Yeah,
Mark Maron.
Well, that's he was just saying it on stage, but it was one of those
that's
things.
funny. Okay.
And I forget if it's on that album, but he also has another great bit that Stanhope liked that basically goes. You think about what if I just go into the woods? What if I just leave all this this civilization and go into the woods? And then you think, well, what about day 3? Because that'll feel good on day 1 or 2, and
funny.
then day 3 I'm gonna want my phone. I'm gonna want to check the internet. You know?
I used to not like his stand-up at all, but I saw him live, and he crushed, and I was like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
But then this new special, I'm like, oh boy, step back.
Well, he became a fucking rich guy. That's what happens with everybody.
All of these comics, I feel like they have shelf lives like milk.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Kumail Nanjiani used to be my favorite guy, and now it's what is he even fucking doing?
I think it's difficult. I mean, what you look at. Louis C.K. is somebody who became successful and for the most part stayed funny.
Yeah.
I think he kind of fell off a bit, but
he's back.
And then
he's funny again.
And then he did other stuff. But yeah, I think for the most part, becoming a millionaire isolates you.
Yeah.
And it's true in comedy, music, whatever the case may be.
Even Louis was able to keep it pretty solidly funny, but not near where his original specials were.
Right.
2017, I still thought it was pretty good, but it was it was better than most other people's specials.
Yeah.
But it wasn't up there with Chewed Up or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Whereas most comics
But that was a work in progress.
Yeah. 2017.
The leaked set. Sorry.
No. I actually thought the leaked set was really good.
The leaked set was like the best shit I've heard from him in like since a decade, almost a decade.
Yeah, that was what was funny. Was people like he's not funny anymore. It's like, look, you can level a lot of criticisms at him, but this is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think I posted about that online. It just sucks how that's the other thing with comedy, and people think comedy criticism is political activism. And again, my politics are my politics, but I do stand up, and I think those are two very separate things.
Absolutely.
So people think, if we say the new Chappelle or we say the new Louis C.K., if we don't like its politics, we should say it's not funny.
Yeah.
Well, it's like clearly, millions of people think this is funny.
Yeah.
Or hundreds of thousands or whatever the case may be.
I can't stand that with like criticism kind of in general. Like I think it's just becoming like very like it's just like everyone has the opinion that's the narrative.
Right.
Like, even with the Joker movie, you saw this, where it's like if you look at the top critics on Rotten Tomatoes, there's a 45%.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, it's like has great word of mouth and like huge box office or whatever. And it's like it's clearly critics just gave it a bad review because it was like the school shooter movie or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it's all and the other thing is, comedy is totally subjective.
Yeah.
And that's why
And the Joker is my favorite comedian. I just want to let you know that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do hate the it's not funny thing if you don't like the person or like with the message there. Like people like Chappelle or whatever, yeah, with the Chappelle thing, it was like and Chappelle's like weirdly bad. I mean, he just got the Mark Twain prize or whatever today.
Right.
Yeah, which is cool. But it was weird how many articles, and they like published articles from comedians that were just like fucking like Dave Chappelle, his jokes don't work anymore, or what? He's lost the plot. It's
and I fucking hate that shit when it comes from millionaires. Like, I think Sarah Silverman, to her credit, at least defended Shane Gillis because she actually,
did?
Maybe like she at least didn't condemn him because you might remember Sarah Silverman got in trouble for saying chinks.
Yeah,
she had a joke she did on like Conan and I think Politically Incorrect, which was she went to jury duty, and then her friend told her to get it out of it by saying. Say something like "I hate chinks," and she said, "Oh, that would be racist. I'm not going to say that. I'll say I love chinks." And she actually got a lot of backlash for it. But the thing is, Sarah Silverman, and you can take an example like this with 100 other comedians, not 100, but a fair number of prominent.
Let's say 95.
Yeah. Prominent today comedians became fucking millionaires off of this shit.
Yeah.
And that really bothers me when I see comedians who are, on Twitter and they're millionaires now, and they're millionaires because a decade ago they did the kind of comedy that Shane was at least trying to do
100%
today.
Yeah.
And then they're going to fucking, cut the bridge out from under him and act like they're so much better than him when you made your money doing this shit.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I mean, dude, Tim Heidecker just like came out like to like condemn Shane like last week, like not even that like way after the dust has settled. And I think it's like A, to promote his movie weirdly,
right?
And but B, it was like and it was like, Tim, and I love Tim Heidecker, I love Tim and Eric, one of the funniest shit ever, but it's like Tim, you made your living like half of your show is just like a retard, like laugh at this retard, like since when are you a moral arbiter? Do you know what I mean? Like, and I agree. It's like 10 years ago. Yeah, all of these comics, Patton Oswalt, like, same edgelord, like he did like edgelord shit basically.
Or like Chelsea Peretti was like dating Jim Norton while he was on Opie and Anthony. Oh, you had no idea what that was about.
Yeah, yeah. That's
all these other comics who appear on Opie and Anthony. Like, oh, you had no idea. You had
no
idea.
Amy Schumer. Do you think like these comics know what they're doing and they're like kind of trying to save their own asses, or are they like, is it coming from a genuine place?
I think I can only speculate, but I think in their mind they're saying, "Oh, I'm changing with the times," But it is something where especially once you become an actor, like once you're around liberal Hollywood, you're around all the Hollywood millionaires and their entire
once that Stuber money comes in, what are you gonna?
But their entire politics is superficial, and it's based around. I am a good person. If the culture is good, if the messages are good, then that will fix things. But at the end of the day, no, it's the money. That's all that matters. And I think, to his credit, Andrew Yang. I mean, I'm a Bernie supporter, but Andrew Yang is clear about that. The best way for me to conceptualize politics is anybody with more than $10 million. If you are not a millionaire, that person is your enemy because their entire existence is predicated on they don't have to work, but they own stocks, and you work for the companies that are the stocks that they own are based on your work.
Right.
So that's the.
Did Yang say that?
Well, no, Yang did not say that precisely. But he did say.
Damn, Yang's going to become the Joker.
Yeah. He did say a lot of the political correctness stuff is a distraction from the money. Let's focus on the money. I do think focusing on the money is the smartest and simplest way to understand politics.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at like Trump and like a lot of the immigration fears he stokes up, a lot of that is caused by economic anxiety, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's the I mean, look, I could go on for too long on this, but
I'm sorry. I did not mean to disrespect the president. That was my fault. Trump Daddy, thank you for killing ISIS.
Yeah.
I love you.
Did you see he fucking posted a picture of the dog today?
Dog. What a great dog. I also saw like a New York Times reporter said like the president has requested to meet the dog. I want to meet this dog post haste.
Yeah.
Does it look like Snoopy?
No, definitely.
Which is funny because Trump also famously hates dogs, which is so funny.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's one of the first presidents. I mean, I don't think he always goes to comparing people. I don't know for sure that he hates dogs,
right.
But whenever he's trying to insult someone, he goes like a dog.
Oh,
and he's also one of the only presidents.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah, only Rosie O'Donnell. He's one of the only presidents to just like not have a dog either.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember there was a story about how when Putin met Angela Merkel, the German chancellor, he knew she was afraid of dogs. So he brought a giant dog into the room.
Whoa, did he do that?
To sit in the room and intimidate her at their meeting.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no.
Jesus.
That guy's a real 12-dimensional chess player.
Yeah, dude, he is so far ahead of the game.
My favorite Putin story is he stole Bob Kraft's Super Bowl ring.
He did?
Yeah, so
I love that Putin's not just like a grand international cyber criminal.
Yeah.
He's also like a petty thief.
Right, so the way they tell, I think Bob Kraft tells the story is they're at some sort of function and Putin's admiring his Super Bowl ring and he says, "Could I see it?" So he takes it off and hands it to him and Putin is like looking at it. And then out of nowhere, like 10 Russian security guys come and surround Bob Kraft, and then they walk out with Putin.
Oh, my God.
And he just takes his fucking ring.
Oh, fuck. Dude, that's
totally deserved.
So sick.
Yeah.
I mean,
you didn't earn this anyways.
I can't think of
because of Spygate.
Here, this is my no ring. Thank you. I did this. I won Super Bowl. Go back to Rob Kraft's like, oh, God, fuck. Where's my prostitute to jack me off?
Right.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone. It's like Putin versus Bob Kraft. I think I'm rooting for Putin. I think I'm rooting for Vladimir Putin.
Bob Kraft needed 100 Asian slaves to get over that one.
Man. I kind of actually felt bad for Bob Kraft. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like prostitution should probably be legal. Yeah. I don't understand why it isn't.
No, I do think it should be. But I do think, like, also, the problem is you can't really separate a lot of this shit from the economic system we live under. So there is trafficking. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I remember when I was a fucking college kid and I was stupid. I was out in Amsterdam, for college. And just out of curiosity, you go through the red light district. And at least for me, that was, like, one of the most depressing things I've ever been through.
Oh, really?
Because, like, I don't know the actual percentages on trafficking, but I do know that a lot, or at least a significant minority of the people who end up there are just trafficked by Eastern European organized crime. Even in the legal context, yes.
Wow.
I mean, maybe it's different in Germany. I haven't studied the issue that closely, but I do know that there is trafficking.
I assume their industries are more tightly regulated than the United States.
No, and that's the thing. It's like it is the same thing with drugs. Like
same thing.
If you legalize it, it'll still be a problem, but it is easier to combat these things when it is legal and there are permits and the government and people are not afraid to go to the police.
Well, especially if you look in Nevada and like the brothel system, it's like so much less dark. I mean, it's still dark, but it's like so much less dark than like the fucking, the pimp shit,
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or like that fucking bill that they passed that shut down what was the website? Backpages.
Yeah, that was so stupid. Like, who is this for?
Right.
Amy Schumer.
Yeah, Amy Schumer came out for that.
Like, of all the things, like, why? I don't understand that. I don't understand their argument. I don't think that's not gonna, because that's like those websites just made it so like a lot of prostitutes didn't even need pimps. They could just like go direct to the consumer.
And that's exactly the point is that if you have to stand out on the street corner or solicit in other ways, you might need a violent person to protect you.
Sure.
Whereas if you are able to use a website to solicit your services over the internet, and then just like any guy who wants to hit you up, or girl, anybody who wants to hit you up, you just send me your ID, tell me your workplace.
Yeah.
You know, you can keep yourself safe doing that shit.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know,
in many ways, it's like podcasting.
Yes.
Yeah, and if they shut this down, I got to go right back to Harvey.
No, yeah, we check all of the IDs on all of our Patreon users, and then when they unsubscribe, we try to get them fired for listening to a racist podcast.
Hey, you'll not believe what
the real 12-dimensional chess.
Hell yes, dude! A real Putin move, in my opinion. That's kind of a Scientology move, actually. Like they actually do that, where they they blackmail you with stuff you said while you're in Scientology if you try to leave, like Travolta.
Interesting.
They have like videos of him confessing he's gay. This is all alleged and rumored, but they've apparently videos of him confessing he's gay, and he wants to leave but can't because like he doesn't want that to come out.
But everybody knows he's gay.
I know. I don't know what his holdup is. They won't let me be in Gotti too. Sandy. Yeah. So what do you think's going on with Epstein? What's going on? Where's Ghislaine these days?
The last they heard, there was a public report that her and the model scout, Jean-Luc Brunel, were hiding out in Brazil.
Brazil?
I think that was the Daily Mail. But the thing is, like, you have to imagine when these stories are published, they're like, okay, let's get the fuck out now.
Right.
But that's the last time they heard about them. And
this is so bizarre. This Ghislaine saga even is like...
Right.
It's weird. It's not the biggest story every day. Like, where is like she's got to be one of the most wanted women in the whole world, right? Or wanted.
You have to imagine, yeah. But you know, I mean, like when you're a multi-millionaire, and you know people, and you know, I honestly do believe she's an intelligence asset, probably for Mossad. So when you're actually like connected to intelligence agencies, they can protect you. Or if you just have money, you can get the fuck out of the country. And, you know, like, I mean, we could spend 4 hours talking about all that In-N-Out burger stuff.
Oh, my God.
Shit,
so she leaked a photo. So Ghislaine Maxwell, if you're not familiar, and if you're a listener, you are already familiar. But she's Jeffrey Epstein's, like, right-hand woman. Mm-hmm. She when Epstein died, everyone focused on her. And she the only like big photos that were widely publicized were of her at In-N-Out, but it was later revealed that she leaked those photos herself.
But
they were photoshopped, right?
Yeah, they were photoshopped. But what was interesting is she's in that photo, just to drive people fucking insane, she has a book, which is The Life and Death of CIA Agents. Mm-hmm. I might be getting the title wrong.
No, that's about right, yeah.
The Death of CIA Agents.
I think Tim Dillon short-circuited when he saw that.
Yes. No, I went fucking crazy when I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we did the episode before Epstein died, so I was already, like, just nuts. And then it's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But we just did, actually, for Grubstakers, we just did another like long 3-parter about this weird forgotten scandal from the late 80s, early 90s called the Bank of Credit and Commerce. And kind of the Cliff Notes version is it's this giant Ponzi scheme bank, which the CIA and Mossad, among others, as well as, you know, terrorists, Saddam Hussein, whoever you want to name, they were all using secret accounts at this bank to what the CIA and Mossad and others were doing, the intelligence agencies, where they were trying to keep their operations off the books because the CIA was worried about congressional oversight. So they are storing this money with this clearly criminal bank and saying, okay, these are our black accounts and we will let you take a pass on the drug trafficking and the money laundering and the weapons dealing, also possibly child trafficking.
Oh my God.
All this other shit you're engaged in. We'll give you a little pass, but you got to help us out.
Oh my God.
And you got to do operations for us. And there are actually people who worked for BCCI for what was called the Black Network. It was like a bank with its own fucking intelligence agency.
Yeah.
And they
it was called BET, the Black Network.
They said that they actually did assassinations for the CIA and this kind of shit. So, again, you can drive yourself crazy going down all these different rabbit holes.
I love it. Every Sunday when I'm hungover, I just go down these rabbit holes.
Right. I mean, there's a million fucking threads. And the other thing I've talked about on our podcast is there's so much shit out there, and I believe that some of these conspiracies are true, but you have to imagine that there are other conspiracies that the powers that be, whoever they may be, put out there to A, make you waste your time, B, go crazy, and C, look crazy. So that if you try to talk to people about this, they're like, just shut the fuck up, you Tower 7 guy.
I know. Well, that was the thing about the Epstein one. It was like, it felt like the first conspiracy theory that people like were willing to entertain a little bit in like, in, you know, regular company or whatever. But yeah, that's what's crazy. I mean, shutting down. That's the thing. It's like all the Facebook stuff about like conspiracy theories. Like I entertain conspiracy theories often without like not believing in them all the way sometimes. But like I feel like there's like a big push against conspiracy theories, probably partially because Trump is the president. But I'm like, well, but there are actual conspiracies out there, and there are like, you know, especially when it comes to like the power, you know, powerful governmental shadow force. Like Ed Snowden basically uncovered a conspiracy. You know,
of course.
And so I feel like that it's kind of like the big media pushback against conspiracies. It's like I kind of see where you're coming from, but it's also like I think it's kind of important to like, you know, have that branch of thinking, you know, going a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's you shouldn't shut that down. Or at least I feel like that there's like an ulterior motive between like just, you know, because like flat earthers we can all laugh at and say are crazy or whatever.
Well, I think there's been a real push by, if you want to call it establishment media, but also just like, you know, blue check millionaires with Twitter accounts. There's been a real push.
I hate those people so much.
My least favorite people in the
world. I think the worst in the world.
Yeah.
And they all love Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah.
All the blue checks love Marvel movies. Isn't that crazy?
Right. Well, that's the thing is like, you know, Marvel movies, stand-up specials, South Park, it's all a substitute for politics. Or it's like I even noticed this with my own tweets. If I tweet something about like a corruption or whatever political thing, you know, like I'll get a bit of engagement. But if I tweet about South Park or stand up, like way more engagement.
Well, because it's pop culture, but people are confusing now pop because like, do you ever read Chuck Klosterman growing up?
No, I didn't.
Well, he was like this writer in like the early aughts when I was like an early teenager, and his whole thing was like kind of tongue-in-cheek reading, like dissecting like very basic pop culture and being like, well, this is how it applies to everything about the world. And it was like kind of tongue-in-cheek. It was like it was kind of, the joke was sort of like, well, isn't this silly that I think Seinfeld or a Radiohead album explains 9/11 basically. Right. And that's become mainstream criticism. Right. It's just like they're just using pop culture as a stand-in for like politics.
Right. Well, Lindy West literally gets 6 figures a year from the New York Times to do that.
Yeah, but now they don't do it with any tongue in cheek. They're actually very self-serious about all of it, which is like, it's just like, come on, you guys, you're being ridiculous to say like, I mean, like, look, do you like South Park? Are you a South Park fan?
I think it's funny. I think some of the politics have aged very poorly, particularly on like the Iraq War and shit.
Were they pro-Iraq War?
Well, just like, I mean, kind of Team America, like, look, whatever you think about Michael Moore or Matt Damon or whoever, like, opposition to the Iraq War, whether or not it was cool, that was a really fucked up thing we did. I mean,
Iraq War.
Yeah, like, just to give you an example, over 10 years, from 2003 to 2013, Halliburton subsidiary KBR got about $39.5 billion in federal contracts just in Iraq alone. And, you know, and then you look at Abu Ghraib, where we were just kidnapping random people off the street and raping children in front of them, which...
Did you ever read that? You ever watch that movie Taxi the Dark Side?
No, I didn't actually.
It's just about this guy. It's about just like this regular cab driver who gets like kidnapped and tortured for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
and that happened all the fucking time.
That's crazy. That sucks.
And nobody went to jail. Nobody got held accountable. And, you know, all this shit was done so that the Carlyle Group and KBR and Halliburton and Boeing and all the weapons companies, they all got a big fat payday. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I guess if your politics are more focused on, you know, liberal Hollywood millionaires, they do suck, but they don't suck because they think this is a bad thing.
Yeah, I think it's just more so like to defend... and that was kind of the position I took when I first saw Team America too, because I was really liberal growing up, like especially growing up. I think it's just I think it is just pointing out like you're very informed about this stuff. I don't think Matt Damon's not that informed, so therefore people think it's annoying when he like speaks out against it. You know, he's like an actor, so why is he telling us about this kind of thing?
Right.
And also Michael Moore used the South Park guys very deceptively.
Right.
In,
I did
Bowling
hear that
for
story.
Columbine.
So I understand why they're mad about that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I know what you mean too. The Iraq War was clearly worth that was a fucking disaster.
You know what? In fairness, it was worth giving us Team America.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. You know what? Who can say? Who can truly say? In fact, 9/11 gets a pass too. The Team America was just that funny.
Holocaust really bad. The movie's
great.
So you got to weigh these things out.
Yeah, I mean, Inglourious Bastards. I mean, look, the Jews took one for the team for that one because that's a great movie.
There's a stand-up joke I could never get to work, unsurprisingly, when I tell you it here. It's basically like, yeah, so the Holocaust, of course, is terrible, death of 6 million people, but you take any random sample size of like 6 million, and maybe like 1 or 2% of them were horrific pedophiles. Yeah. So it was, in fairness, the biggest mass murder of pedophiles in history.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we let the Holocaust happen, till now, there would be no Epstein.
That is true.
I mean, I'm just saying,
no, it's not.
These are facts.
Yeah.
No, that's also wouldn't. It's not true.
Yeah.
I saw Jojo Rabbit. It was all right. It was good.
I wanted to see that.
It was good.
Yeah.
It was like 3 different movies. The first third is like Wes Anderson Nazi youth. Like it's like Moonrise Kingdom but Nazi youth. And then the second third is like a movie from the 90s about like a whimsical comedy or like a feel good story about like a Jew hiding out in a kid's room. And then the third act is like just a war movie. And so it's like it's very weird. It's a weird watch, but I did like it, even though it's a bit of a mess.
Like Full Metal Jacket, like 2 different movies.
But that one's more intentional. I think they tried to make this all one movie.
Interesting.
Yeah, and also, unfortunately, the best character is Hitler. It's never a good sign. Like Hitler's like this wacky, awesome sidekick for like most. Like the kid imagines Hitler the whole movie, and he's like, "You can do it. You just need some confidence. You can talk to her." And he's like hammy and silly and great. But then at the near the end, he just turns into like regular evil Hitler.
Here's something that actually relates this to our discussion earlier that I've pointed out as anybody who thinks comedy makes any fucking difference whatsoever.
Yeah.
Anne Frank and Hitler had the same favorite German comedian.
Really?
Yeah. I'm spacing on the guy's name right now, but you can look this up.
Don Rickles. Oh, what is there, a Jew here in the front row? That's just he's saying what I'm thinking.
Yeah. They both loved Andy Haynes, their favorite. But no, it was...
And if you're listening to this, look up Andy Haynes. He's a great Nazi comedian.
Just like... He was the fucking Joy Division produced the greatest, most Aryan stand-up comedian. Those selective breeding programs created Andy Haynes.
So I hate Jews. I'm in my 30s and I hate Jews.
Oh, damn. You nailed it.
That's the first time I did an Andy Haynes impression. I was like, hey, that's actually pretty good.
I remember that bit.
Yeah.
I guess he stopped doing it.
Girls don't want to hang out with Nazis when you get too old. They love a young Nazi. An old Nazi, it's like, okay, but do you have a headboard? Fuck you, Andy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Go check out Andy Haynes. His new Comedy Central set. One of the only good ones that just came out.
Oh, really? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
No, I love Andy.
Yeah, he's great. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just saying.
They're the same favorite comedian.
Yeah, like if you go to the Anne Frank Museum in Amsterdam, which I've been to, I didn't recognize it at the time, but she had a poster on her wall of this German comedian, and he was actually also Hitler's favorite comedian. He was kind of apolitical throughout the war, but it just kind of goes to show you that it's like, okay, if literally Hitler and Anne Frank can say, this comedy is great for me.
Right.
And Tim Dillon's also pointed this out to me. Like, he has a lot of, really just crazy right-wing friends who say, yeah, I love George Carlin.
That's funny, yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, like, whatever else, like, George Carlin, was vulgar, but he was very much on the left.
Super lefty.
Yeah,
like
so it doesn't make a
classic hippie.
Exactly. He was a vulgar hippie.
Yeah.
And so, it is just something where I enjoy political comedy, but I think if anything, it makes people less likely to do anything real politically.
Yeah.
It's like a release valve.
It's such a problem, too, because I feel like, especially when it comes, this is such a bad time for political, and I always loved political comedy growing up, weirdly, but I think it's like a bad time for it because like I feel like everyone now, I think people are so afraid because Trump is like objectively funny.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're afraid to do any material about him that isn't like take itself very seriously, kind of. Like every time I see a Trump jokes, for the most part on stage, is all people kind of like running down liberal talking points, like or like that's what Seth Meyers does basically, or Colbert. They kind of just like run down the liberal, the take, or they act like they're about to like collapse and have a meltdown on stage. Like Trump is there like holding a fucking gun to their head while they're doing stand up, and it's like when I do Trump stuff, and not that I'm like the greatest comedian, but I actually do like my Trump stuff. It's just you go silly, you just go completely silly with it. Like this is a buffoonish man with dumb hair, and he looks dumb, and he's like insane looking, And I think a lot of people don't like that because they're like, well, you should be taking it seriously because otherwise you're normalizing him and it's not funny anymore or whatever. And it's like, but like, what are the only political satires that even hold up? Like Dr. Strangelove and like The Great Dictator. Yeah. And it's like those were both more harsh political threats at that time. Like the Cuban Missile Crisis like almost wiped out the whole world, and Hitler was worse than Trump. Sorry, but they both went silly with it because they're like, well, that's what comedy should be. It should be an escape. It shouldn't be like actual commentary on what's happening.
You ever watch Blackadder Goes Forth?
No, I haven't.
It's Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean. He did a show before Mr. Bean called Blackadder, and the last season is 4 seasons.
I've seen Black Ass Fuckers.
Well, it's related to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's the sequel. But it's World War I satire. It's 6 episodes. I think it's very funny, and it's a great satire of war. But again, it didn't stop war.
Right. Of course. But that's the thing. It's like that's why you should go silly with it, because if you're serious about it, it's not going to affect things either way. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like not either. Like you might as well just try to be as funny as possible, and that should be the ultimate goal with all this stuff.
Absolutely.
And make a good point. I like when people make a good point and stand up, and I'm like, that's a good point or whatever. Yeah. Like that can be good. But even just watching this Maron special today, there's a lot of clapping. I'm like, enough of this. Enough of the clapping.
I was the biggest Maron fan in the world, but then he just started talking about his cats and shit, and I don't give a shit, man.
I want my fucking cats.
Yeah.
Boomer. I just like, well, his opening line of his special is just like, I don't know what he's gonna do. Like, fuck. Here we go. Trump stuff.
Yeah. No, it's
But I get it. I mean, I get that he's always been political. He's always been like, mainstream.
Well, he actually had before Final Engagement. He had what I thought was a funny post 9/11, mostly political comedy album. I think it's just again, you get money, you get detached, and you lose your edge, you lose your connection, because that's what a lot of stand-up is relating to people.
How do you think you keep from that? Like, is there any way to not? Do you think it's just being like Norm, like just losing your money all the time, just becoming poor?
Maybe that is it.
Because he literally lives in a one-bedroom apartment.
Norm Sharp. God, he had the greatest quote on Howard Stern. Oh, he was quoting somebody else, but he says, I lose all my money gambling. I'm totally broke. I go to the cafe next door. I use my last dollar to buy a coffee, and I feel clean.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I relate to that emotionally that hits you, but then it's like, but having no money fucking sucks.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Budgeting. I'd love to not have to budget. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these guys don't have to budget ever. They just like spend money. I was talking to a guy who opened for Brendan Schaub. Do you know who that is?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, the Rogan UFC fighter or whatever. And
yeah.
Aston Martin just gave him a car. Because they just wanted to see him driving a car, and it's like you don't have to be that famous to get like unlimited shit.
Oh yeah, I mean you look at the Oscars gift baskets and all that shit. Like if you are like, that's the thing is the way money works is if you have money, you just automatically get more money. Like if you take, of course, if you're famous, people will give you endorsement deals or just free shit just to be seen with it.
Yeah.
But then also just if you have a chunk of money, you put that in an S&P 500 index fund, you're making on average about 8% a year for doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
Almost guaranteed money.
Yeah. Well, it's like when I'm on a roll in poker.
Yes.
And I'm not. Folks, I was in Atlantic City the other weekend, made $20.
Oh, that's pretty good.
$20 at the blackjack table.
I remember I made something like 20 or 40 at a blackjack table once after like 3 hands, and I'm like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah, I know. I gotta get out. I can't spend any more. Yeah, I can't spend any more. Yeah, I was opening for this guy, and we were both at the blackjack table, and I was like, I kept playing because he's a big gambler, and I just kept playing, like, be polite, not look like a pussy, basically. And then as soon as he ran, he busted and he walked off, and as soon as he did, I like got my money. I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm up. All right, I'm done. Thank you. And then I waited a bit and walked over. I was like, oh, man, busted.
Just like trying to relate to like crazy gamblers. Like, yeah, I know, man. I was out $60 the other day.
I'm glad because I have an addicted personality. I'm really glad I don't have that one.
Oh, yeah.
Just like,
that'd be so horrible.
You can lose so much fucking money with that way. Yeah. So when it comes to Trump, do you think that he's much worse than just like a regular shitty Republican?
No, I honestly don't. I mean, I think he's like look, he sucks. He's a racist. Like a lot of, well,
yeah,
we don't even need to say that kind of shit. And like the stuff with the border is fucked up. A bunch of those kids get separated from their parents. A whole bunch of them get molested and raped in custody. Like it's a horrible thing to like know your government is doing. But what you want to take a look at Ronald Reagan. We're running fucking arms to the Contras in Nicaragua. These are, literal rapist death squads. The government of El Salvador, military dictatorship, raped and murdered 4 American nuns. The U.S. government kept sending them money. Of course, the Iraq War, George W. Bush. I think it's not even a question that George W. Bush was a worse president than Donald Trump.
Right.
And unless Trump blows up the world, that's basically not going to change.
He'd have to get into a horrible war.
Right. He would. You look at like just the death and misery and destruction of George W. Bush that he caused, at least 500,000 people in Iraq, all those people with PTSD who came back from Iraq and Afghanistan, they're still around today,
Mm-hmm.
And so like the damage George W. Bush caused, and, I mentioned earlier the Halliburton, there was just a ton of corruption, billions of dollars went missing in Iraq that just went to like fucking friends of friends and people who donated to his presidential library and shit. So, I think both on the corruption and on the overall damage, George W. Bush is ahead of Trump, and it's not even close.
Right.
But at the same time, we have all this like, oh, he was a decent, good Republican, not like this. And the thing about Trump is that people just don't like, or a certain class of like well-to-do liberal types don't like that he says the quiet part loud.
Yeah,
he's like
that's
very
a good point.
upfront about what has been going on for decades.
He doesn't put
now.
a pretty face on
Right.
like the evil of some of the aspects of the presidency, sort of.
Right, like when he was saying out loud, like, oh, we're going to take the oil in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And they're like, how could he say that? Well, it's what we fucking did.
Yeah, we don't want people from shithole countries. It's
right.
Like, I mean,
well, that's what the immigration
that's
policy
merit-based
did.
immigration,
yeah.
And, fuck, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah, his speech after Syria was, I mean, like, I think this is like the key component of Trump, which is like he did pretty much what any president would have done, even a mild victory in Syria. And then he goes on and he does this long speech that's like insane and unhinged and like completely undignified. Like that's the Trump in a nutshell. About the same, but just like this insane speech that invalidates like an objective success or victory even.
He talked about like what, bin Laden being tall and handsome and shit.
He was like, actually, it's not as bad. Actually, what we did, it's better than this guy than bin Laden because bin Laden wasn't even doing anything. Or whatever.
Baghdadi, even sexier than bin Laden.
And he also did like I think Obama's speech after he killed Osama bin Laden was like a tight 4.
Yeah.
I think Trump went on for like an hour.
That rules.
He's so cool. And he described like macabre as like, oh, he was bloody. He was growling. He was bloody. He was looking for it. Didn't get it. He died. We killed him.
I saw like on Drudge the headline. I guess Trump gave the description of like Baghdadi. Was like crying and like a coward when he died. It reminded me one of the SEALs who killed bin Laden. I think he's Robert O'Neill. He's still on Twitter. He would tell these stories about like, yeah, I saw the 9/11 families and I told them bin Laden died like a pussy.
Oh my
He was
God.
crying like a bitch.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I don't know if my loved one was killed. I'm not sure if that would really do anything for me.
Yeah.
My friend was telling me those SEALs, like, they were so jacked up. They got in a fist fight when they got back from killing bin Laden about who would get the credit for killing bin Laden.
Really? I thought that one guy's like persona non grata because he took credit for it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, dude, if I killed bin Laden, I don't want to fucking tell people.
Yeah,
you
sure.
killed bin Laden.
Well, yeah.
That's pretty sick. I definitely thought John Cena killed him for like 4 years.
Right.
Did you see that?
It was fucking...
Have you ever seen that WWE clip?
Oh, when he announced it? Yes.
That's so cool. That was so sick.
Right. Mark Wahlberg almost got the chance, but
Fuck,
he wasn't on
I was
this
supposed to
plane.
do it. I was supposed to be on that plane.
Yeah.
I was going to fucking kill him. Mark Wahlberg was on the podcast last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but you were telling, the story today was about Trump and the getting booed at the Washington Nationals game.
Yeah, right.
And it's just something where, I mean, I think this kind of perfectly encapsulates it, where if you are in the Washington, D.C. area and you can afford tickets to the World Series, you sold cluster bombs to Saudi Arabia.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's a crowd full of the richest of the rich. You know, like, there were people there booing him who were, like, on tape, on the Epstein tapes with a 9-year-old from Estonia.
Sure.
And it is like, and it's a
Spacey's in the crowd, like,
Right.
I'd hate to be that guy now.
Lock up Trump. He's the villain here. And it's like, yeah, Trump fucking sucks. I don't care that people boo him. But what disturbs me, and I think what we're seeing a lot now, is the possibility that the Democratic Party will become the party of the rich, and Trump and the Republicans will become the party of the working
Popular.
class.
Well, because he's more populist.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Trump's talked about, I don't know if he's followed through on it, but like when he was campaigning, he was like, yeah, we're going to tax these major corporations they're taking from you, you know, like all that shit.
He campaigned on ending the carried interest loophole, which is this really fucked up tax break that only like hedge fund billionaires get. And every politician has said for 40 straight years, yeah, we're going to end this shit. And then it just never happens for some weird reason.
Yeah, I'm sure, dude. I mean, that's what's crazy is like if we're going to talk about like the thing that the Epstein made that really freaked me out when that whole shit, when I was going down the rabbit holes was like, just the idea of like this whole shadow oligarchy that like kind of controls everything and doesn't like want you to even know about stuff. Like that's what like what was revealed to me during that whole saga is like, and that really sent a chill down my spine, is the people who like, we know all the billionaires that are flashing in the media, but the people who really control stuff, we don't know their names.
Oh, of course.
You know, you don't even know who they fucking are.
Right.
It just makes me like fucking like it's like a dystopian novel or something like that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like when you think about a crime kingpin, you think about Pablo Escobar or El Chapo or some shit, but it's like, no, the real ones don't have Wikipedia pages.
Yeah, they keep out of the spotlight.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like most billionaires, I should say most billionaires have Wikipedia pages, but there are also powerful people who are just not straight up billionaires.
Sure.
But you know, I mean, that's why the podcast that we do about billionaires is very fascinating, because there's just over 2,000 billionaires in the world. Yeah. And these are like the ruling class, the 2,000 richest people in the world. And if you learn about them, you learn a lot about how power actually works in the world.
Are there any billionaires that you've researched in your podcast that you've actually come to like?
That's a good question, actually. You know what, like we're on some level, I actually do respect Adam Newman of WeWork, because it's it's just a fucking straight up grift.
Yeah.
Like on some level, it bothers me, like these guys like Warren Buffett or whatever who pretend like, oh, I'm just a decent guy, when it's like he owns a stake in all 4 of the major airlines. The reason the airlines are so shitty is because Warren Buffett owns a significant chunk of all of them, and he tells the CEOs, hey, don't compete too hard against each other.
Really?
Because I'm making money no matter what these people fly on.
Fuck.
Yeah. And so, you know, there's like that element of billionaire, and he just presents himself as this like friendly
It's like the shittiness of regulation with the shittiness of capitalism like together.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, like...
That sucks.
He also owns like this fucking internet. He has a monopoly from the government for this internet protocol. People have written about this, but if you buy a website, I think he owns .com and .org, not the other ones.
Can you imagine owning .com?
Yes. It's like, I think it's the icon fee. I forget if it's a different fee, but basically anytime you buy a domain, you have to pay a little tiny chunk of change, like less than $1 to Warren Buffett, but he's the only one who owns that. So
what the fuck?
I know, like, so that's what his deal is. He's a monopolist who just like managed to insert himself in vital levers of the economy.
Yeah, and he has a great media image. Basically, he's
friendly
just great at controlling his image.
Friendly old grandpa.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but, I mean, I think my mom loves Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
It's like, that monopoly. I mean, even in the capital is like the point of. Like even in the founding ideas of capitalism under America, like regulation was always a big part of it, or at least like some sort of checks and balances between like there should be some fucking I mean just all monopolies. It's like who's supporting this and what are you pointing to to make sure that this is like, even if you believe in like what the founders did for America, like what are you pointing to that this is okay? Like even like you know, trust busting was always a big thing. Teddy Roosevelt, all that shit, you know. So I don't think they have any sort of argument, like historical or social. Like people hate monopolies, and it's not, you know, it's not very American, I don't think.
Well, there's a lot of different factors, but yeah, like I think in particular the destruction of unions and the end of monopoly enforcement, where particularly after the Microsoft case, I think that's the last real major monopoly busting case that we ever tried to do. And even the Microsoft case came too late, where we did episodes about Bill Gates. What he was doing with Windows is he fucked over and bankrupted a ton of other companies because they own the operating system. So if you want to develop for the Windows operating system, well, guess what? They're going to put a whole bunch of secret code in the operating system you don't know about, so their shit runs better on their own thing, and then they're also going to give their shit away for free, so you go bankrupt.
Damn.
Or almost free.
That's devious.
Right. And so that's what should have happened with Microsoft is the operating system should have been separated from the applications company.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. And, now he's the richest man in the world.
The WeWork guy just got like a $1.6 billion payout, right?
Well, that's the thing is, so we did this episode on Adam Newman, and on some level, you almost respect that kind of smash and grab,
Well, he just seems like a man-child.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he's like, yeah.
Well, it's so his story of success is just he grew up a rich kid, son of 2 doctors, and how he got the leases for his first buildings is he would just get drunk with the kids of other rich kids.
Oh my God.
Or sorry, the children of other rich landlords in New York.
Right.
Like Jared Kushner, for example. There's a story in New Yorker which kind of goes through his rise, which was he called Jared Kushner into the bar and they started taking shots. And he says, "All right, I'll let you take a lease on my dad's building."
Hell yes.
And
that's how I get booked on podcasts.
Right.
And they lease buildings to each other.
Right. So, on some level, he's a shitty guy who's fucking walking away a billionaire after driving that company to the ground.
I heard they paid him in Modest Mouse CDs.
But, on some level, I respect that more than the people who pretend that, they are this, ethical guardian or I got here through hard work.
Right.
When the fraud is so naked.
He looks like a doofus and people, he plays the quiet part loud, too, a little bit.
Right.
And he's aware it's a grift. Have you ever worked in a WeWork before?
No, actually.
I used to work in one, and oh boy, is it funny in New York, because I worked in one in L.A. briefly, and then one in New York. And in L.A., everyone more buys into the WeWork ethos of it being startup culture, man, cool. New York, it's still there's a lot of people who just are business people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all these. So it's half startup people who are making a lot of noise and partying in the common room, and half people who dressed up in suits who look so out of place, next to the keg, and just look miserable as Pumped Up Kicks is playing in the bathroom.
Just fucking mandated partying.
Exactly.
You must party or we will fire you.
That's exactly how it feels. Also, I was over there, the company I worked at had such bland company culture. So in the actual office space, it was whatever. And then you walk outside and it's we're at Coachella now. Okay, this is weird.
You want to know the ballsiest Adam Newman anecdote we found? It was reported in the press. These are huge fucking balls to do this. They were going to change the name of the company from WeWork to the We Company.
Yeah.
And then he was going to make the company pay him $5.4 million for the trademark of the name The We Company.
Whoa.
That's how much that fucking name is worth.
Yeah.
Just $5 million.
Can you even copyright the word we?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's The We Company.
That was my favorite rich person, not a billionaire, but probably pretty close. Taylor Swift tried to trademark "haters gonna hate," which is a phrase she didn't invent.
Oh yeah,
she took it from black people.
Yes,
and put it in her song. It's this is my trademark now. This is my. No one can put "haters gonna hate," which is already on shirts.
That's because
you bitch.
I don't think cultural appropriation. I don't think that's a real problem. Cultures
I don't
exchange stuff
either.
all the time, but when you're monetizing it, that's a little bit different.
Well, it's also just unethical.
Yes.
And it's just also such a. I generally don't think cultural appropriation is anything. Yeah, because it's isn't the point of everything to meld and exchange ideas and cultures?
It's been happening for thousands of years.
It's literally what made
entire human history.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I saw this status. I was I'm excited for Indian representation, but I'm mad that white people are going to take it or something like that. And it's well, I mean, isn't that you can't have both? You can't segregate and be extremely popular in mainstream society.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm from a mixed family, so it's I'm glad the culture's appropriate. I don't want to what should I do? You know what I mean? Anyway, whatever. But Taylor Swift. Yeah, that one's great. But I do love invoking the social justice arguments against white women because it's their kryptonite. They love it or they hate it. It's a great troll move for them. Actually, what you're doing is you're taking from black women. No, I'm not.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, look, white men have had it pretty easy, but white women have also been one of the most protected groups in all of human history for at least the last several hundred years.
Who goes to jail the least? I wonder which demographic.
Yeah, white men are murdered on a higher proportion. Larger percentage of homeless people are men. You can go on.
Most suicides too.
Yeah, most suicides. Oh, here's a fun fact. Of the 5 major weapons companies that provide weapons to both the U.S. government and like really horrific governments like Saudi Arabia that are based in the United States, of the 5 major ones, 4 of them have female CEOs.
Oh, really?
So that's girl power to the military-industrial complex.
Yeah.
And that's just like the whole fucking joke where people say, oh, if we just have women, oh, if it's just Lehman sisters instead of Lehman brothers. No, if you have a fucked up structure, like women will perpetrate it.
Yeah. Well, what was that great Chappelle joke? Like you were on the heist, you just didn't like your cut.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's what was funny when they were trying to make that Ice Bay a thing, like that one woman who like worked for ICE who was like hot. They're like, we stand this queen. It's like, what do you do? Like, come on. I think that was kind of some of the backlash against Hillary Clinton's campaign was because like she tried to really lean in on the identity politics aspect, but I think most people, not most, I mean she got a lot of votes, but like a lot of people I think saw through it. You know what I mean?
She had that fucked up quote about like, will breaking up the big banks solve racism? And it's like, like it's so...
It would help because these problems are more systemic and class-based than like anything else.
Yeah, there were 10 million foreclosures, most of them illegal. What do you think the racist disproportionately of the people who got thrown out on the streets were?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, if you want to talk about racism, like, I think a lot of the problem is class because I think a rich black guy and a rich white guy who have both been through like the same education systems will have more in common with each other than like even a rich white guy and a poor white trash guy. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like
absolutely.
They'll bond quicker.
Well, and look, and that's the thing about some of this white privilege rhetoric is on some level, if you look at Chelsea Peretti, Chelsea Handler, she just did the Netflix white privilege.
Are you there? Chelsea Handler just came out with a documentary about like where she learns about white privilege or something like that. Who's asking for that? I don't understand that. That feels like that's from like 2011 or something.
My greatest hope was that would finally destroy white privilege when Chelsea Handler is like doing this shit. Yeah. People be like, all right, we gotta put this away now.
Just white guys start getting pulled over by the cops. Like, sorry, sir, this new Chelsea Handler documentary just came out.
But okay, you look at this. A millionaire, Chelsea Handler, is saying, this is my white privilege. Well, what is she doing? She is saying to you that if you're a white person and you are not a millionaire, she is saying that she has something in common with you. And that's actually really kind of, it's obscuring the lines of power. Where, like we talked about, Chelsea Handler doesn't have to fucking work. She owns stock in whatever company you work for, and that grinds you down on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. And she's actually kind of distracting you, and she's saying, you and I, we both had it great, huh? We have exactly the same life. And that's the thing with this white privilege rhetoric, for millionaires in particular, I think is very dangerous.
I really wanted that documentary to cover her dinner party with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah.
She was at that. She was at a party with Epstein. That's so cool. Imagine going to Epstein's house after the fucking thing broke.
Yeah.
Would you do it?
Probably not.
It could have been fun.
It's like, okay, so he's booking Comedy Central. I guess I'll go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if he booked a Barr show in Brooklyn, I'd definitely go.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
It's a nice house. One would say the nicest in New York. Who gave him that house, by the way? Someone gave it to him, right?
Yeah. Les Wexner, the billionaire who owns Victoria's Secret, who's fucking connected to the mob, probably.
Why the fuck did he give him that place?
Well, that's the thing. Nobody knows, and that's why the most reasonable explanation I've come up with is he's linked to either Mossad or the CIA, and he was actually like a person who engaged in blackmail operations to compromise people.
Got it. Did you see that really weird New York Times article where they interviewed Epstein about Elon Musk or whatever?
I did, yeah, I did.
That was bizarre. Everything about Epstein is just so mysterious and bizarre to me, even still this day.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm just like, it just feels like I know a lot about him and yet so little. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and that's the fucked up thing is, so William Barr, the current attorney general, is doing this investigation of his death in a federal prison under suspicious circumstances. But the thing is, William Barr, early in his career, worked for the CIA. From like 71 to 77, he worked for the CIA, and part of his job for the CIA was to help the CIA cover up against congressional investigations, the Church Committee. And then before he was Trump's Attorney General, he was George H.W. Bush's Attorney General.
Oh, wow.
And he was the guy who suggested that George H.W. Bush do all the pardons for Iran-Contra, which was another CIA-backed scandal. They mostly pardoned CIA agents as well as others. But so the thing is, if you do buy, which I do, that Epstein was at least tertiary to the CIA, maybe if he wasn't directly on the payroll, they were at least using him or involved with him somehow. If you buy that, it really should concern you that the guy who's in charge of this investigation is a CIA guy, and we just might never know the truth.
Yeah, fuck. That sucks. Yeah, that's the thing. It was like when they were like, don't worry, guys, the FBI is investigating this. It's like, well, I mean, they're probably clearing the evidence off the island,
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Thanks, guys, for showing up a decade after fucking all the bleach was dumped on the floor.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm just going to, let me see if there's any more topics I haven't covered yet, and we'll wrap up soon, because I do have to get to a fucking show. Let's see, sorry, fucking thing. Did you see Weinstein went to a stand-up show this week?
I saw the clip of the comic. I forget her name.
Kelly.
Yeah, Kelly.
So what was funny was she posted a status about it before it happened, and she was like, "What should I do?" and I posted, "Drop M&Ms on the floor and see if he picks them up," because he did that at a screening one time. He dropped M&Ms on the floor and picked them up while a movie premiere was happening.
Really?
Yeah. My comment was very unpopular though. I didn't get any likes or comment or replies on it. So I don't know. But I do get to tell people, yeah, I know that girl's going viral.
Well, I liked the backlash that you all stood up for Shane Gillis, but Harvey Weinstein hasn't been canceled, and it's I don't know, he's looking at 25 to life.
Yeah. Also, it's no one was pro Harvey in this case. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Also, everyone supported Kelly. I didn't see anyone who was like, "Well, this is stupid."
Every comic who stood up for Shane Gillis stood up for Kelly because that's what comics do.
Yeah.
Look, I don't want to overrate this idea of comedy solidarity, but there should be at least some understanding, even some understanding of how jokes work and the process of stand-up and all of that. And so, yes, obviously, if fucking Harvey Weinstein is at a show and a stand-up comic roasts them, I am with the stand-up comic.
Yeah, me too. And that was my thing, because I was yeah, I thought it was legitimately very brave to go up there and yell at Weinstein's face,
where the
face
fuck
or whatever.
was he at an industry show? Anyways, I didn't even understand this.
Dude,
it was an acting.
So it was,
thing,
it was an actor's. Yeah, that was the thing. Was it was so muddled. People are giving the Barr 1-star reviews. It's settle down, guys.
Right.
The Barr didn't invite Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
There was an actor's showcase there, and Harvey showed up, and I guess he still has an entourage and people who support him or think they can get stuff from him, which is fucking weird to me. And so I think that it was just a general networking event, and then they had a show, and all those comics were on the show.
Yeah,
it seemed a pretty poorly booked lineup too. On top of it, I didn't really know any of the comics on the bill besides Kelly. So
it's if you want to get fucking NACA gigs for the Mossad,
yeah.
Weinstein.
When Weinstein called me over to the couch, I knew I'd be doing Israel.
You get to
this kid's got something. He'll be great for my Mossad agents that I used to spy on my rape victims. Did you see he did that?
Oh, yeah.
That was the craziest. That was the best part of that whole story.
Right. And that's the other thing. You want to talk about Mossad, Epstein, all that shit. Well, Harvey Weinstein was doing the same thing. There's it turns out.
And he's relatively not that powerful.
Right.
He's
a multimillionaire.
He seemed very powerful,
but
in the grand scheme of things,
right.
Compared to a politician even, or yeah.
But that's great. The Mossad, this agency that's supposedly all about, protecting the innocents from terrorism. It's they have a retirement program where you get to go through the trash of rape victims and try to fucking blackmail them.
Yeah, he had someone follow Rose McGowan around and say that she was her friend and became really good so fake best friends with Rose McGowan.
Jesus Christ.
She even texted Rose when she came out against Harvey proud of you, support you. Meanwhile she was double agenting for Harvey the whole time.
That's really fucked up.
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, look it up. That was the Ronan Farrow story. Who I'm not the biggest fan of the Ronan Farrow, but that was great reporting and an insane, a truly insane story. Let's see what else.
There was in terms of like interesting Mossad stories, I don't remember the exact circumstances, but one of the terrorists who did the murder at the Olympics, you know, the German, where they killed the Israeli athletes at the the Munich Olympics.
Yeah.
So they killed a bunch of them, you know, like in that Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
One of the stories they didn't tell in that movie is this woman, I think it was in Lebanon. She shows up out of nowhere, and she's like this artsy bohemian woman who's like friendly with everybody, you know, hippie, like barefoot. She's always out on her porch painting every day. And what happened was she was actually watching this terrorist every day would come in his car along the same motorcade route. So one day there's a car bomb that goes off and nobody ever sees her again.
Oh my God. What?
So, yeah. So she's just you know, like it is on some level very impressive.
Yeah.
Of course, what the intelligence agencies do, where they like go in and these people like who just, you would never fucking know it, but they're just there to spy and keep an eye, and then somebody else places a bomb, and then back to my old identity.
I'm creeped out right now. Oof.
So yeah, keep an eye on Bushwick hipster chicks, because you never know which of them are on the fucking Weinstein payroll.
Yeah, well, they're all on someone's payroll, usually their fathers,
Yeah.
but not all of them are Mossad. I have a new character, Hassan Mossad, and I do a heartbreaking one-man show about how I left India to join the Mossad. The NBA or China's wilding out, huh? What's going on there?
Oh yeah. Well, that's look. Another thing we can talk about a lot.
I'm so smart with my questions.
Yeah.
It does feel like there's a lot of global protests right now.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you make of that? Or is it? Do you think it's social media that's doing this?
I think social media is helping, but I think it's ultimately like the economic conditions. Because what almost always happens with this shit is there's one event that gets people out into the street, and then once people see people out in the street, they're like, well, my life fucking sucks. I'm getting out in the street too. So it becomes a whole other issue.
Right.
You know, like in Chile, it was they raised the prices on the metro.
Yeah, which didn't seem like a very big deal to me,
Right.
but I guess there's like really horrible inequality there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like really horrific income inequality there, and, you know, austerity and all that, where people are like, I can't give anymore, you know, and there are so many billionaires here. Why aren't we like taxing them or whatever else the case may be? So it becomes all these different issues. Which is like any mass movement is going to have a million different issues. But I guess just to talk about China, like China is something where everybody who said we shouldn't like let China into the World Trade Organization as a most favored nation, which Bill Clinton did, everybody who like said we shouldn't do that was dismissed as like, oh, a racist or a kook or like a Ross Perot type, or it was said, you know, well, if we trade with China, they'll become a democracy. It's like, oh, look, 20 years later, they're fucking putting 1 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps
so horrible.
And harvesting their organs. Like they got even worse.
Yeah.
Not only that, one of my favorite economic statistics is there's an economist, a guy named Dean Baker, and the approximate
shout
number,
out Dean.
Yeah. He's check out his podcast.
Yeah.
He does a racist Chinese accent. You're gonna love it.
Matt and Shane and Dean Baker's secret podcast.
But yeah, so the statistic is from 1970 to the year 2000, the United States lost about 1% of all their manufacturing jobs.
Sure.
From the year 2000, when China's let into the World Trade Organization, from the year 2000 to 2007, before the 2008 financial crisis, U.S. lost 20% of their manufacturing jobs.
Wow.
So, you know, and like you can argue about what exactly caused that, but I do think like the timeline is very clear where manufacturing was a job where if you didn't have a college degree, you could get a good middle-class income, and 68% of Americans do not have a college degree.
Sure.
So the problem is we wiped out all the jobs that would allow anybody without a college degree to make a middle-class living, and now we're living with the consequences.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point, and especially like automation and technology is kind of taking that away. So, which was like kind of the dream of it. Like originally, like in the Jetsons, it was
right.
I mean, you know so much more than me about specific facts. I'm just like, what about the Jetsons? But it's like the idea behind like developing technology was eventually like no one would have to work. And we would have robots do everything.
Well, machines are great, but it's all who owns the machines.
Exactly, and what are we doing for the people who don't have jobs? Like we're not paying forward any of this money or manpower being saved or that money being saved at all. That's why everyone got there and vote for Andrew Yang in 2020.
Yeah.
He's the only one talking about the robot apocalypse. But yeah,
I will give him some money if he actually goes on Matt and Shane's podcast.
he still might, dude. Shane talked to him and said he was the man. Seriously. I just saw Shane on Thursday. He was a real fun hang. I'm glad he's like the same. He seemed happier to me. I'm like, well, how are you fucking going with that? But yeah, so shout out Shane. Good for you. And SNL's been pretty bad this year so far. I shouldn't say that.
Well,
I haven't even watched it.
Like, look, the only reason to get SNL is like it's a good paying union job.
Yeah,
so
that was a great point you made. Yeah. Well, because Jack Allison, who I'm friendly with, you know, he was like, because Norm was like going to bat for Shane,
right?
And Jack was like, Norm, why do you care so much about the job that fired you? And you were like, well, I'm sure Shane would rather have that than his $25 a spot night with no health insurance, basically.
No, I mean, we were talking about this, I think, before we started recording. Like, I love podcasting, but the thing I love most in the world, as far as entertainment goes, is doing live stand-up.
Yeah, it's great.
But it's very difficult to make a living or even create a fan base just doing that.
Yeah, and Shane's a headliner, but he's still like, you know, he doesn't need a day job, which is kind of the dream, but he also like lives in a hallway basically, and like, yeah, that's what sucks is when you have that much national scrutiny on you, and for my opinion, bullshit reasons, and you're not rich and you at all. You know what I mean? Like you just don't. You're not rich or famous, so you don't even have fans to like come to your defense or anything like that. So just have that national spotlight on you, and be like shamed is like, oof. I just couldn't believe it. I think I would have. Which I was impressed that Shane is doing well, or at least appeared to be having fun and doing well, because I think it would mentally break me. I would.
It must suck to be like the fucking enemy of the state for a week.
Even if I was rich and famous, I don't know if I could handle it. I could probably handle it better if I was rich and famous, but dude, I mean, online Twitter mobs do terrible things to people's psyches.
Yeah, and
people don't know that. People don't even recognize that because they only see the famous people who can recover.
Right.
But even them, like Aziz, look like shit now. You
right.
know, it fucks with people, and I don't think people recognize that.
Well, it's like any other fucking mob where people who are part of the mob will do shit they would never do on a one-on-one context.
Yeah,
it's like verbal violence, and they convince themselves that doing this is somehow some sort of righteous thing, and this person deserves all this shit. And it is just something where I was just thinking it was kind of funny when you do stand up. There's this realization where you're like an open micer, and then however many years in, you realize like, oh, all of my heroes, all the stand-ups who are on TV all the time, they make $35,000 a year.
Oh my god, it's even worse now, where all these people who I think have made it or are successful all have like day jobs. I'm like, what the fuck is?
Yeah, you're like jealous of their career, and it's like you make like half of what a teacher in West Virginia makes.
Dude, that's why I'm like bottom of the barrel. I mean, I've been doing it about the same time as you, like almost like 9 or 10 years, and there's still people who are above me that I really envy their careers, and I talk to them one-on-one, and they're like, yep, back to moving. I'm a mover. Andy is actually a great example of that.
Right, and he's the funniest guy in the world.
I know.
And,
I'm like, nothing's happening.
So many funny people. But it is just something where it's like, with stand-up, without being too pretentious about it, there's a separation where there's the art, and then there's the money. Mm-hmm. And there's various ways to figure out how to get the money part done, such as podcasting or writing job or whatever else.
Yeah.
But, it is something where the actual thing of doing stand-up brings me so much joy when I get to do it and do it right.
It is great.
So maybe that's why Shane's happy, is he gets to fucking do stand-up again, because at least that did get his name out there, and people will put him on stand-up shows.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean,
probably headline him and all this other shit.
Yeah, I think he. That's probably what he even cared. I think he'd rather do stand-up than SNL.
Yeah.
Honestly, if he had to choose.
Why the fuck would you want to fucking write with a bunch of, I should say, there's some funny people I know who are on SNL.
Steven Castillo, Dan Licata, funny guys, and Sam J, very funny. I mean,
Julio
there's a lot of very funny people on SNL, but I think it's just because it's Lorne's show. It's just such garbage, and they're so at the mercy of fucking bloggers and weird political scrutiny now. Like they're they're like an arm of the media wing right now, which is like not good for comedy. Horrible for comedy to be basically like a little CNN. I hate it.
There was like a blue check Twitter thread earlier about how to keep your kids from going to the right wing, and she was talking about sitting down with them and watching like liberal comedians.
I saw that. That was great.
It was like, and talk to them about whether or not the jokes punch up or down. It's like, well, this will create a generation of Nazis.
Yeah. They're gonna rebel against that real hard. I am, dude. And that's the thing is like, I've been a liberal my whole life, and this shit is like, what are you fucking doing? It's just so antithetical, because I value almost more than anything, like, and I probably should value it less, to be honest, but comedy and free speech, and this stuff feels very anti both of those things to me.
Well, I think free speech is like one of the biggest and most important things of any political movement that wants to challenge power.
Yeah.
Because, and you look at like what you talk about China and the NBA or whatever, or Google or YouTube or whatever, you look at the real threats in the Western world, at least, to free speech are corporations.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
true.
like, okay, we get them to ban whoever they define as Nazis. Well, you might be surprised if you actually become a threat to their power. You might be surprised at how they are using their power to silence and ban you.
Yeah, and they'll make it look like it's for one of the reasons that you agreed with in the first place.
Because like a lot of this shit is so subjective that I do believe that the safest principle is to be a free speech absolutist.
Yeah.
Which is like,
I agree, dude. It's like, yeah, how do you guys not see this backfiring on you? It seems so easy to me. And also, like, even if it never backfires on you, shouldn't you care about on some level the principle of free speech?
Right.
It is like, I mean, I think it is like the greatest thing about, America is that the government can't fuck. I mean, they do, of course, in a lot of ways. But if you compare us to a lot of other countries, like it's a luxury, in my opinion. So I don't know. I just don't understand. I think a lot of, especially comics, who like root on the restriction of free speech. It's just bizarre to me. I don't understand it, and I think it's gay.
Yes, my words exactly.
Yeah, and please, when Sean runs for office, please play that clip.
Right.
When Sean gets SNL.
Yeah, just take the feed of this and edit in the part earlier where I agreed with a different point more enthusiastically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is something where it was even like a liberal left argument, like the First Amendment only protects you from the government. It doesn't matter if you get fired. Well, who has all the fucking power? The corporations.
Exactly, yeah.
So you're shooting yourself in the foot when you say that bullshit.
And also, it's like freedom of speech isn't freedom of consequence. It's like, yeah, literally, that's what it is. And the question is, like, do you value free speech beyond the letter of the law and the Constitution, and do you value it on a cultural level? Right,
and like even the people who defend, Shane Gillis or whoever they may be, nobody is saying you can't say, I find this offensive, I find this racist.
I hate this guy.
Right. Where you can, whatever. The point is, we're drawing the line at people shouldn't lose their jobs over this shit. Yep. They shouldn't lose their source of income, be kicked out on the street.
They shouldn't be punished.
Right.
Why are you punishing people for fucking words?
Oh, the other great irony is like fucking Saturday Night Live runs ads for, Butterfinger or whatever other chocolate company. There is so much fucking slavery in the supply chain of chocolate.
Wow,
There's like
yeah.
2.1
I didn't know that.
2.1 or 2.4 million child slaves in the Ivory Coast and Ghana today who harvest the cocoa that's in like something like 70% of the chocolate worldwide. So it's like you're saying Shane's accent is more offensive than child slavery.
labor.
Like,
yeah, that's the thing. It's like these fucking purity tests with this stuff.
Right.
It doesn't hold up to any degree of actual scrutiny.
We can't have Shane on. He might make the child slavery look bad with his fucking ching chong voice.
Boy, yeah, you got look at the companies who are making the neuters. All right, I think that about does it. Anything to plug? This is great, man. Thank you so much for coming on, by the way.
Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. We do the Grubstakers podcast, soundcloud.com/Grubstakers, GRUBSTAKERS. We also have patreon.com/Grubstakers, extra episode every week, and you can check me out on Twitter at SeanMcCarthy.com.
Great. Please remember to rate, subscribe, and review our podcast. We need it. I'm seeing worse podcasts with more reviews, so fucking review me, bitch. Review me. Don't be lazy. All right. No, I love all of you. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Bye.